Most electric bikes come with a single battery, like the Blackbird here. Now some bikes, like the Lancer, have a single battery inside the frame, but then they have an option for a second battery on the outside. Now what if you already have an e-bike, it's not designed for 2 batteries, but you want to put 2 on? Well, that's what this is for. A lot of you have been waiting for this dual battery parallel connector to get back in stock. So not only are they in stock, but it is a new upgraded version. So the internals are completely different, and the outside has a new aluminum case to shed heat. So this is going to perform much better. The typical questions as far as how do these work are, can I use batteries of different voltage? Can I use batteries of different amp hours? I'm going to explain all of those things and show you how to connect one. This is a battery off of one of the Blackbird bikes, and this is the cradle. This is the portion that's mounted to the frame. A lot of e-bikes are gonna have something like this. If your bike doesn't have this, what it probably will have somewhere is a red and black wire. What sort of connector is at the end of this can vary a lot. Now I wanted this connector to be as generic as possible. XT90 meaning these are good for 90 amp. These are common on aftermarket batteries, which is, I assume, what you're going to be using. Normally you'd have the battery connector go straight to your motor controller, and there's nothing in between those 2 connections. That's where this guy comes in. Let's grab 2 batteries and plug them in. They each have their own connector parallel module. Plug 1 battery in, plug the second battery in, and now the remaining connection goes to your motor controller. It really can be as easy as that if you have XT90 connectors on your 2 batteries and on your controller. So on something like the Blackbird, I would take the battery and mount it on the rear rack. Now on something like the Lancer, if you've got room in the triangle, obviously that's another option. And then we're just gonna run this nice long cable down to the parallel connector, our second battery, and the motor controller. But if you look closely at this production Blackbird, you'll see that, it doesn't use an XT90. It's actually using a slightly smaller XT60. Now that's sufficient for the bike because that connector is rated for 60 amps and the bike can't draw that much power. But that means that this guy doesn't quite match up. It's not plug and play, or is it? We also have this XT90 to XT60 adapter set. It's 1, 2, 3 adapters that come in the set. Let's say, for example, your Blackbird battery has an XT60 connector. Well, we can plug one of these in, and now that will plug directly into the stock Blackbird battery. But we bought an aftermarket battery, which uses an XT90 connector. Well, no problem. We can plug that one in right here. And looking at our controller, it also has an XT60. Well, that's not a problem. We have this adapter here, and we can use an XT60 going to the controller. So with these 3 separate connectors, you can use any combination of XT90 or XT60. Now I fully understand that your bike may not have either of those. In aftermarket batteries, like I said, it's very, very common, but on stock batteries, you could get bullet connectors, you could get Anderson connectors, you could get some sort of generic plug that we don't even know what to call it. And in those cases, you will have to find some sort of adapter or make your own. Now let's cover some of the technical specs. For the Blackbird example I have here, I've got a 52 volt battery that is a 16 amp hour. The second battery I have sitting up here is a 52 volt 17.5 amp hours. So the capacity of this one is a little bit bigger than this one. And that's okay. You can mix 2 different batteries of different capacities. I could, for example, take the stock battery off, move it to the cradle, and I could mount a massive, 20 amp hour triangle battery in the middle, and that's gonna work perfectly fine. The voltage, however, does matter. You cannot use, say, a stock 52 volt and a 48 volt. The battery voltage between the 2 batteries must be the same. This is more than just a parallel circuit. So if you hooked 2 48 volt 10 amp hour batteries in parallel, you'd effectively have a 48 volt, 20 amp hour battery. You double your capacity, the voltage would remain the same. That's not exactly how this little guy works. Now the end result is the same thing, but it's a little bit smarter than that. With a standard parallel connector, if one battery is charged up to 54 volts and the other one had, say, a 50% charge and was at, say, 48 volts, 47 volts, if you connected the two together, there is a potential difference in voltage there that is going to equalize. It's going to happen very quickly and somewhat dangerously. You're going to instantly drop the voltage of one battery and raise the other until they are equal. So it's an instant rush of current from one battery to the other, effectively discharging one and charging the other at a higher rate than either of them can handle, and potentially kill the BMS or the cells in both batteries. Obviously, we don't want that, so this, being a little bit smarter, is also a little bit safer. You see, if we have two batteries that are not charged evenly, this will draw from the battery with the higher voltage until the batteries equalize, at which point it can draw from both of them together. And that's something that might look a little odd on your display of your e-bike. If you have one battery that is halfway charged and one that's full, your motor controller that's plugged in is only going to see the battery that is fully charged and operating. You can always plug them in one at a time to ensure what your actual charge levels are. You can also run off of one or the other battery. You don't have to have both of them plugged in at all times. This is good for anything from 24 volts up to 52 volts. And you also probably want to know how much current this can handle. The maximum recommended current for this is 30 amps. So just something to be aware of. It does have a very nice aluminum case that should shed the heat, but it is only rated for 30 amps. So if you have one of those 35 amp controllers and you're gonna use one of these, you may want to tune it down just slightly so it maxes out at 30 amps. Now that's gonna cover most stock electric bikes on the market. Usually 20 or 25 amps is as high as a stock electric bike will go. Even the 1000-watt BB SHD equipped bikes, those controllers are either 28 or 30 amps, so it can handle that without any changes. These are in stock at boltonebikes.com. The adapter set to the XT60s are also in stock. One thing I don't have quite yet is a specific mount designed for it to put it on the bike. And it's pretty small and compact. It can go in a lot of places, but if you'd like to see a custom designed mount for these, let me know in the comments. I'm thinking about actually making one and putting it into production. Just let me know if you're looking for a case or a mount to put this on your bike, and we'll try and get to work on that right away. If you're considering putting two batteries on your e-bike, you should probably know how to maintain them for nice long life. I have a great video on that right here.